and family.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello.
Who am I with? I'm with my dad.
And
Hey,
I'm with my girl. All right now.
how y'all doing? Welcome in. We love you. Get comfortable. Hi, handsome.
Hey, pretty girl. How you doing today? Doing all
I'm
right?
I'm
It's
doing
good to see
well.
you.
I
Always
feel
good.
way up. I'm blessed.
Hey, that's all right. That's all
Yeah.
right. Amen. It's
You're
always
looking very
good to do well.
dapper,
I
very
am.
astute.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And you looking gorgeous as always. Looking like your mama with your pretty self.
Thank you, Papa.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I just want to shout out our audience, our friends and family members, as we so lovingly call you all. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all the love. Thank you
Right.
for your comments and your likes and your shares and your subscribes. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep putting us in that algorithm, right? Keep those likes and those subscribes and those
Yeah.
comments up. But I really, really want to say thank you so much for your support of this channel before we get into the convo today. What are we talking about today, Papa?
Well, I'm open. I think we talked about possibly you asking me some questions and me asking you some questions. However it works out, we just what the people need to know that this is completely done extemporaneously in the sense that we don't have any notes or we don't.
Yeah.
We don't have a planned agenda. We have a topic, or we may have. She may come up with a topic. I may come up with a topic, but it's basically just extemporaneously off the cuff, off the dome, from the spirit, from our hearts. And I just want you to know that this is not canned information. This is experiential information that, if put to use, can be usable information in the life of the individual that endeavors to walk in it. So, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted to offer the people a very candid fly on the wall experience, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
again, you and I have these conversations all the time. Every time I come down to the house, we get
We
into
talk.
some kind of topic, some kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted it to be as authentic as possible. So yeah,
Yes.
and fly on the wall, listen in, join in. You're welcome. I think I want to talk about dating.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good.
One of the last conversations I had with you was um without telling too much of my business, but
Mhm.
you know, dating nowadays, it's very different than it was yesterday's.
Very much so.
Um, and I think it would be helpful for the young ladies to have some advice from an established family man, leader, provider, husband,
Mhm.
father, um, and give some insight into three things. What should if you're a single woman, let's do single woman and let's do married woman. If you're a single woman, what are three tips you would give for dating?
I would first start with, there are actually three things I would say, but I don't know if I would put them in this sequential order. But I
Okay.
would first of all know your history,
Your own personal history.
your own personal history.
Okay.
Before you go into a relationship, I think it's so vitally important. It's unfortunate that most of us didn't know this going into a relationship. Know where
Mm,
you came from. Take a serious look at the dynamics of the relationships that influenced you.
mm,
Don't go into a relationship thinking that you're different than your mom, your auntie, your uncle, if you're married, your uncle, your
that's
dad.
good.
Take a serious look at if you're fortunate enough, or if you're in a situation where you're fortunate enough to be a single parent, or fortunate enough to be a single father, or you're fortunate enough to be a two-parent ham, because you're always fortunate to be a parent. But if you live in a house with a mother and a father, look at the dynamics of the relationship and be very honest with yourself. Is this what I want to paradigm in my relationship? I think what happens is
Okay.
we glamorize the relationships we saw in order to, how can I say, make the relationship we want relevant. I want a good resume, because dating is a I hate to be so trite, but it's an employment. It's an interview.
Yes.
It's
They're
an
showing
interview.
up to the date with our presenting our representative.
You're bringing your skills, you're bringing your
Yeah.
beauty, you're bringing your finances, you're bringing all that, your children, you're bringing all of that to bear. Now, in order for me as a man or you as a woman to be able to sufficiently love you the way you need to love, I need to know where you came from.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we go into a relationship hiding where we came from. We got too many bodies in the closet. My mom and dad was a jerk. My mom was a drug addict. My dad was a hoe. You know, we got all of this baggage that when we, especially when we become believers, we want our reputation to look as pristine as possible, especially when we have comparative notes around us. If we have successful relationships here or someone who's engaged to get married, if you're, you know, she's got this guy, and you know, just all of these nuances that enter our thinking when it comes to dating, that we don't consider that dating is not about how I feel about you, is how can I handle you? Can I can I
Can I handle you?
can I handle the weaknesses that I have that you display? Can you
Can
handle
I
my
take
weaknesses?
your
Are
weakness?
you mature enough to be able to navigate the fact that I have molestation in my past? Are you mature enough to know that I have rape in my past? Do you mature know that I have prison, that I have a prison sentence in my back? Do you know? Are you mature enough to handle that in the time past? I've been a deadbeat dad.
There's really no sense, because I'm listening to you talk about, and of course it makes so much sense
Mm-hmm.
as you're saying it, but I think um, we all, to some degree, carry some measure of shame,
We
which is
do.
when we really, kind of spread it out on a humane level, it really doesn't make any sense for us to be
No, it
ashamed
does.
about things that were out of our control or ashamed about things that we couldn't change, even if we tried, situations we were born into, and even situations we may have found ourselves in that are not our finest hour,
Right.
because chances are we made those decisions out of a broken place anyway. So it's not, but I think that it's really, really hard for people to be integral about who they are and where they come from sometimes because they want to be seen in a certain light. Um,
Well, I think who you are is not clear to you until you realize who's influenced you.
mm.
Clarity comes when I say, "Where did this come from?" Oh, that came from Bill, or that came from Sally, or that came from Mom. And we want to for example, you guys, I'm your father, of course, your mom, and when you meet somebody, another, you want them to be totally impressed by your parents.
Impressed?
Yes, you want them to know. You want to know that you came from good stock.
Yeah, when they meet you, they know that. But yes, I do
But,
want
but,
that.
but,
I
but
would.
let's talk about the interview and the resume. We're not going to talk about the assumptions known by the appearance.
Okay,
We're
okay,
going to talk about because most people don't know how to assume by appearance.
okay.
Most people go into dating, especially now, with the idea of what I want. The
Mm,
idea if this is what I want in a woman, this is what I want in a man. Not understanding that what you want come from a seed that you have to change.
right. That I don't even think they put two and two together. Right. So you're saying we often go into dating scenarios kind of tunnel visioned.
Need need vision. I've been wanting a woman like you for so long. You're smart, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're all the things that I want you to be. But I have no seed to get it. I don't understand what it will cost me to extract the gold that I see in you.
I'm laughing, and maybe the audience will enjoy this little story. But if you remember, Daddy, I mean, this was some months ago, but I told you about a date that I had with a young man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, I mean, probably the first 4 minutes of the date were him asking me a few questions about myself, and then he went into this whole spiel about who he believed I was. He really didn't know me well at all. He didn't ask me nearly enough questions to know who I was, but who he believed I was and how I was this and that. And I was this kind of woman, and he believed me to be the, excuse me, the marrying kind and all these things. And then he went into this rant or this tangent about all of these bad dating experiences that he had. And it was the strangest, it was the strangest encounter because it was like, you didn't show up to the date. Like he was so in the past.
Mhm.
And so I remember asking him some very pinpointed questions, right? Like I was trying to get to know what kind of person he was. And all of his answers were about what he wanted in a partner, what he wanted in a woman, what he wanted in a mate, the kind of woman he wanted by his side, how he wanted her to present. And so I was chuckling because that memory came to mind when you said we often go on dates, tunnel visioned about what we want, not really understanding that there's a seed for every harvest that we want. There's a seed for every, if you want a certain kind of man, there's a seed of a woman that you've got to be, and vice
Same with them or
versa,
vice versa. It would be let's go back and let's say this guy was highly intelligent,
right?
attractive, neat, well spoken, well bred. When you meet somebody, here's the thing about dating. When you meet someone on your level or above your level, you feel the need for preparation. For example, you were telling me about young men that come and say, I'd like to go out with you, I'd like to take you out. And you, because you don't see it as a possibility of a future, you're not an unfriendly person. You're not one of these girls who think they're so pretty they can't speak and can't be cordial. You'll say, well, no, we're not going to go out, but we can grab coffee or we can grab something to drink. Might not be able to date, but we can be friends. That's a great way to handle being socialized without dating a whole bunch of guys.
Right.
It's to me, I think for a young lady in these days, if I could give any advice to young ladies, try the coffee before you get to dinner. And could I make one more advice to you? Buy your own coffee.
Listen.
Don't go out with a man because you know he can pay. If you know he can pay, he will be impressed if you do. Y'all ladies don't get it. I'm a baller. I've been a baller all my life. It ain't got nothing to do with what's in my hand. It's what's in my heart.
That's right.
And I take care of my wife. And
Yes.
if you go out with me, I'm going to take care of you. But what highly impressed me about your mom was when we went out to dinner, she said, I'll pay for this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to go to a five-star restaurant. Oh, yeah, let's go. Let's go. Take me to a five. I eat five-star. Let's go. He takes you. I take the check.
Mm-hmm.
Changes his whole approach to you. Because most of you ladies, and forgive me, you're used to dealing with broke people. Broke people in two ways: broken in spirit,
Right.
therefore deficient in resources. And so when you're broke,
Or maybe you might have a few resources, but you're broken in spirit, and so you use resources to try to procure position.
or, amen,
Yeah.
amen. But let me say that that's a great, interesting point. But you got to understand something about men. We
Okay.
men. Uh, a man's, and I hope I say this in such a way that it doesn't sound as though it's a superficial answer, because it sounds superficial. And I think if you listen from a superficial, a man's manliness
Mm-hmm.
is consistent with his ability to provide.
Absolutely.
Now, how you respond to those provisions lets you know if he enjoys doing it or if it's just his job to do it.
How me as a woman, how
How
I,
the woman responds. For
mm,
example, let's go back to the example. Generous, great guy, whatever, whatever, whatever. Uh, there's a saying that I've used many times: if you want something you've never had,
you got to do something you've never done.
I think we're afraid of the never done. And what we do is we go into the next relationship with all the corrections from the other and the cheat sheet from the other relationship and the signs of this from the other. So we never really flush the relationship.
Yeah, and that's not fair because then the new person doesn't get a fresh start. I want
You
to go back. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Papa.
you yourself and I'm your dad and I've had the pleasure of being with you through many of your relationships, and we've had some very intimate relationships, intimate conversations concerning your relationships. But even in your experience, when
Mhm.
it comes to men, that we want to present as providers and men who handle their business because it's innate to do it. Now, whether we do it or not is another thing. But we have you ever met a man that didn't want to present as though he had it going on?
No, that's been a part of my process.
Yeah.
I've attracted some very big talkers who were good for a little while and then and,
And then the real them come out because you can
and
only be
then
focused for so long. And
I want to
then
go back though, Papa, because I'm a little bit confused by what you said, just a little bit.
go ahead.
When we were talking about, I understand the concept of being able to pay your own way, right? I've always been able to pay my own way. And
Right.
even if I didn't or couldn't, I could call my daddy to pay my way. But, by and large, I've been able to pay my own way. So for me, it's never been about, well, I need this and I need that. And I want to date you because I need you or I need your resources or I need what you have. Never been that. Um, and I feel like if you're asking me out, it's your privilege to provide whatever resources needed for that date. Not because I can't do it for myself, but because you're asking me for my company, right? And I feel like a lot of young ladies feel that way. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with feeling that way. I also don't mind once we're in relationship or maybe we're dating each other, I also don't mind pulling my card out and paying for a meal from time to time or treating you or surprising you or something like that, right? I actually love doing things like that. But if I'm getting to know someone, this is the question. If I'm getting to know someone and someone is wanting to pursue me or take me out, is it I would think that it would be confusing, like on the first date, for me to want to pay if it would be confusing because I understand that men want to provide. Men
No,
want to show up and no.
no,
Okay.
no. I think what it is that we get trapped in a mindset. And the
Okay.
mindset comes from all of these talking heads who tell us what women think and how women.
Yeah.
I think that every woman thinks different. And I think you need to navigate life differently based on your status and based on where you are in life.
Okay.
If I meet a young woman and has value, like your mom,
Yeah.
I want to invest in her.
Right.
If I meet a woman that has value, I need to know she wants to invest in me.
On the
What
first day.
on the first what let's say you meet a young man and there's chemistry. You've met him before. There's you can feel that this. I'm not saying every dude. I'm not talking about the dude that actually go
Amen.
out in front of the grocery store. We're not talking about those dudes. We're talking about
Yeah.
we're talking about that one. I'm
Yeah.
talking about that girl or that guy that you say, okay. I mean, you don't meet them every day. It ain't like you're gonna spend a lot of money buying a whole lot of lunches. It's one of those times where you say, okay, yeah,
I got you.
he got that daddy vibe about him. I feel
I got
okay. I feel that choice is there. I feel that
I got
Anthony and Keith. I feel. Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna throw a curveball. Yeah, I'm gonna throw him a curveball. Here, let me take care of this for him.
I got you.
And I
Okay.
promise you, from that day on, you set a precedence. You let a giving man know that you're equal to his giving, not equal to his amount, but equal to his giving. It changes the whole narrative. Every bawling man knows what it means to take care of a woman and knows that if he acts her out, he's going to pay for it. That's not something that needs to be told. It's not nothing to be to a man. Boys need to be taught that, but men don't need to be taught that. But what would impress a man like myself and like other men that I aspire to be, and other men who aspire to be good men, because we are so ardent about taking care, we sometimes need to understand that it's okay to be taken care of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how would a young lady know if or know that a particular man worth that kind of, and I don't want
You
to say
pick,
worth, but you know what I mean? Like, because because
yeah.
like you said, it's not every date. It's not
No,
every date
you,
that
you pick your men like you pick your men and women like you pick your bank's interest rate. Can I make deposits? And is there any interest or any withdrawals I can make from this situation? It, can he hear me? The young man you were just talking about.
you, Lord.
Can you imagine being in a relationship with him and trying
No,
to tell him something's wrong with you? I'm building layers of thought. Go ahead, baby. Go
you
ahead.
are. And it just clicked for me because where we started was know your history, which means know yourself, which means you know what you need, which means if you were to meet someone and your interaction with them is on such a level where it's like,
Mm,
he different.
hide your purse, let him pay and go and do something different.
Or, he different in a good way.
There you go.
Conversation is, he's really engaging. He's
Treat
talking
it,
about
treat
something.
it like church. Can I sow a seed and get a return?
Treat it
See,
like
ladies,
soul. Is
you
this
gotta keep
soul
gotta
more?
keep it spiritual, ladies. You go on date and you become totally carnal. And here's what you're thinking. He got to pay for this. We don't have to. You got it. Ladies, stop this. Brothers, stop this narrow thinking about what people are supposed to be and be open to who they are and do they complement the eccentric ways that you possess. Because not just you, but all y'all women and all y'all men, we all got some strange ways. We just got to find out somebody who can complement it. And here's the key: can I find somebody that will sow to my weakness?
You won't know that though until you've had like a few encounters and conversations, right,
Yeah,
Papa?
but the initial dating stage. Again,
Yeah.
I think you have to be because of the time that we live in. It was so different in the 70s.
Yeah.
So different. You know, dating was so different because you had to actually talk to people. You had to actually see people.
Oh, figure.
You actually had to go to a girl's house and meet her dad and mom. They actually had to come to your house. You know, you actually had to call on the phone, and if you're not at home, they can't get in contact with you. The dynamics were so different, and the understanding of relationship was a lot different.
Mm.
Coming out of the civil, being a darker complected family, being of African descent, uh, coming out of the civil rights movement, coming out of Jim Crow and all of that. 70s was the emerging of a lot of things that had transpired from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. So it was a lot different. Young men and young women my age and your mom's age, we were emerging as a different kind of teenager
Right.
than my uncles and aunts and those that had gone before us. So it was a different time. And the idea of relationship, because I grew up down south and a lot of it, so I think much of it has to do with the environment you grow up in.
Mhm.
Uh, Grew up down south, and one of the things about being a man down south was part of being a man was growing up, finding a wife, and taking care of your wife and
Right.
your kids. Now that being stuck in the back of your mind, you as a man, you understand that. Now the issue I had is I understood my values. My issue was to find someone who could sow into my weaknesses. See, I don't need you to listen. I don't need no woman to tell me to go to work. I don't need no woman to tell me to get a job. I'm gonna do that. I don't need no woman to tell me to take care of my house. I'm gonna do that. I
Right.
don't need no woman. Yeah, and I'll say I don't mean that in a mean way because that sounds kind of. I don't like saying
No,
it.
what you're speaking to
I
is
am not
you've got your own set of standards and principles for yourself. Where
right, right,
manhood.
right. And the same with a woman. All
Right.
I need, what I need, if I'm that kind of man, what I need is a woman that won't shrink at my weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and want being a strong man is a blessing. And I appreciate the strength that God gives me to be that kind of man. But it's also a very lonely life.
Yeah.
As much as it is to be a strong woman. Be a strong person, period, is a lonely life. But it's a very lonely life because when you're strong, strength is expected by those around you.
Mm-hmm.
And even then they can't recognize weakness
Mm-hmm.
because all they look for is your strength. Because it was your strength that was able to help them get through their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
So you become their crutch instead of their wife or their husband.
There's a
Those are the things you need to watch out in dating. Because if they're the crutch in dating, they're gonna be your crutch in marriage.
no, don't you? So you better believe it. You better believe it.
If he walk around talking about how no women, I have women like this, don't marry him. Don't forget you a woman.
That's right.
And when you sit there and talk about, oh, you know, men ain't worth a crap. Remember, you're a man. I know you want to get physical with it. I know you want to get physical with him, and I know you want to end this date with, with the baggity bag,
Fireworks.
with the fireworks or whatever. But know what you're getting, and when you know what you're getting, and you're willing to accept the trials that go with it, have at it. But know what you're getting. Who said it? Maya Angelou.
To
What did
thine
she say? Tonight on Something
own
True.
self.
When people show you what they are, do what?
Believe them.
And we don't.
Right?
We don't. We
Do you
want to
think
convince.
do you think that's because we are overwhelmed with desire, or we allow our desire to blind us? We desire a relationship. We think this person could work out. We really want to be in relationship with this person, so they'll get
Here,
better.
here's what I gotta. I think I can answer that better, and I don't want. Well, I don't have a choice. But here's vision is dangerous,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the things about vision is I know what I want, but I don't always know the route to get
Yeah. Oh, daddy.
there. And
That.
who are the GPS centers that keep me on track? So as a man, I have to trust that my wife is my GPS when I get off track,
Yeah.
whether she does it silently or whether she does it verbally.
Yeah.
Now, to be someone's seed in their need, you got to have tough emotions. Because when you're hurting as a wife, it ain't about me, even though I may have caused the hurt.
Well, yeah.
Did you hear that one more time? Let me try
Yes.
that. It's not about me because what happens is when we hurt others, we tend to defend why we did it.
Right. Or defend the intent. That was not my intention. I didn't mean to do that. That's not what I.
And we spend more time dealing
Yeah.
with the intent than healing the offense. Now, in relationship, if you go into a relationship with what I call guardrail values, which gives it no flexibility, it gives it no latitude. It is just if you a man, if you a woman, if you and you have no flex. Well,
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants a man that provides, and every man wants a woman who appreciates the provisions.
Absolutely.
But if you check the history, you'll know, will she or will he?
Right.
Listen, one of the things I've found over the years, being in ministry for the years that I've been in, and being a people person, period, even before I was in ministry, I find that most people get married to the idea, not the person.
Mm-hmm. The idea of the person.
The idea of marriage, not the person of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We get married. Like for example,
Mm-hmm.
because you were raised in my home, there is an idea that you have about marriage. Watching your mom and I,
Yes.
there's an idea. You see him and you've met him in your past, and you've tried to mold that person into that image, even though they didn't fit.
Mm-hmm. I'm a very creative person, right? So I have always tried to give people the latitude. Because I'm creative, I tend to be attracted to creatives. And so I try to give people the latitude to find themselves within whoever they say they are,
Mm-hmm.
um, what they say they're about. So I'm going to advocate for myself in this one. I don't quite see that. I don't think that I tried to fit people in boxes. I think I tried to fit in boxes. I tried
Let's
to.
let's go back. Let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back over. Let's deal with the relationships that you saw your daddy's values in these men. That's
Well, well.
what I say. Well, follow me now. Follow me
Okay.
now.
Okay, Papa.
My kindness, my consideration,
Mhm.
not necessarily my ability to provide. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, because that's not something you've had the opportunity to experience in its fullness
Right.
from a
But that
man.
was who they said they were, or who they said they wanted to be.
Right, right. Now, again, going back to what I said,
Yeah.
in reference to what we're saying and looking at it from a daddy standpoint, because when you brought him in, I still saw what I'm telling you now.
Uh-huh.
I looked at their mom and dad.
The history.
I
Yeah,
looked
that's
at
where you're
them,
going with this. Yeah.
and I said, oh no. And I know it's not going to work. And that's why I said that we meet people and we shape them into what we think they could be, regardless of their words,
Yeah.
regardless of what they say. Like every young person
Yeah.
is the victim of one another's promises. Until you grow to the extent and become mature enough to realize the promise you made, you could never keep.
Mm.
But the promise you made, I can mature into and become. But I could never be that, even though I would try to present that. And a
Mm.
lot of times we're not bold enough, mature enough to admit it. We
Right.
usually find out in the fire that this person is not who he or she said she was.
Yeah.
And the worst thing in a relationship is to go into a relationship and to give your all and to
Yeah.
invest your all
Yeah.
and to realize that the other person is shortchanging you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like a person. I like, you and I are very travel oriented person. I don't like to do a lot of flying, but I will if it's a certain class.
A lot of flying in a lot of different places, seeing a lot of different people. I
do
don't
a
like
lot
to
of do a
do a
lot of
lot of
things, see
different
a lot of
flying.
people. So I like to fly. I like to go to a lot of different places. I don't even know what I was going to say. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um,
65 showing
no,
up.
you're all right, Papa. I mean, essentially, you were speaking to, when you're younger, you go into relationships bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you there's an element of wanting or making promises that you can't keep. Maybe hoping that you can keep those promises, but not being able to. And naturally there's some disappointment that comes as a result of that. But I think the point of the whole this part of the discussion is that it's tracing back to your original tip, which is to know your history, and then as you're getting to know whomever it is that you're dating, get to know where they come from, who
Right.
their folks are,
Right.
who their
Have
family
you ever been in a,
cities.
have you ever been in a situation in a relationship?
Nope. I already know what you're gonna ask me. Go ahead,
Let
ask.
me this you don't know what I'm going to watch this. Have you ever been in a situation and you're having I won't say a disagreement, but a difference of opinion with someone you're with,
Mm-hmm.
and you catch yourself saying, "That's dad,"
Yeah.
coming, "That's mom," coming out of you.
Yes.
You would never tell your mate that, or
I
not that you would never tell them, but at that moment, you won't fight that. A person won't fight that because they naturally believe that if it's coming from my mom and dad, it must be good. And that's how we work it.
I see
We
what.
work it. We work it like that. And because mom and dad had a successful relationship. My dad loves mom loves dad. Well, that don't mean that dad handled that properly or mom handled that properly. So what happens is that the same way that happens to you, if
Mm,
you're dealing with a man that's been abused,
mm,
abandoned, he's going to come from that same place. but he may not have the control that you have. But here's the thing about it. He possesses all the other qualities that you love. She possesses all the other qualities, but this one thing. And that one thing is so connected to him not knowing his history. I tell people all the time, the
Yeah.
Bible tells us, forgetting those things are behind. How can you forget what you don't remember?
Or what you don't want to remember.
But it still happened to you.
Yeah. Still happen, and it's still a part of you.
You know, I find this to be the case at 65, because over the years, I have been an avid reader. I've kept my mind fresh because the mind is an organism. It's a muscle. It has to be exercised just like your arms and the other things. The mind has to be. So I've always been a very curious person. So I've always been very aware of educating myself, not just from a spiritual standpoint, not just from a secular standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint and a relational standpoint. Educate myself. That's how I come to some of the things that I did. It's by my personal experience. I didn't read Dr. Phil or Dr. Jones' book. I read Life's book. And so what happens is a lot of times we go into a relationship. Me personally, I went into a relationship and I had the design for family. I knew exactly how y'all supposed to be, how everything was supposed to look, how my wife was supposed to treat me, how I had this whole design. Most of it turned out well, but 15 to 20% of it I never saw.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be resolved that I'm not in the relationship to see what I want.
Because when you say the 15 to 20% you never saw, you're talking about something outside of you, right? You're talking about the response of family members. You're talking about the behavior of someone else.
No, no,
No?
you guys, I never saw what I imagined.
What did you imagine
It,
you didn't see?
some of that's personal.
Okay. I'm
Some of that,
asking because,
some of you go ahead, go
well,
ahead.
I'm asking to highlight that there is a need for latitude. Like I feel
Yes.
like that's something I've always understood though. I've never gone into a relationship thinking you're going to be exactly how I think you should be. Or even you're going to be exactly who you say you're going to be. There's like this basic like you got to work because you need to work to take care of yourself. Like
Mhm.
that's not, that's a non-negotiable because that shouldn't even be negotiated. You need to be a kind person and be willing to work on the relationship. But I guess what I'm speaking to is that I wanted to know what the 15 to 20% was.
The 15 to 20% are personal things. I think most of it, as a man, uh,
Is that because it was a unrealistic expectation?
no,
No. Okay.
that it's
Okay.
not an unrealistic expectation. Is that whenever you have a desire, you always do 15 to 20% for the human element, especially when I desire something from a human being. Like, for example, if I say, uh, I need you to come over and give counseling to me about a situation I am. And you come over and you give me counseling, but the counseling you give me doesn't answer my need.
Mm-hmm.
So you gave me 80%, but the 15 to 20% I didn't get because of where I was in life. So when I say that, I don't say that to the denigration of the individual that you're dealing with. I say that to the process of the individual that's going through it. Because when you hurt, let me see if I can make it. If I come and tell you something about you that you don't think you're guilty of, if
Mm-hmm.
I say to you, Elika, you're mean, and you do some very mean things. Now, if you have conditioned yourself and you have heard from many people that you're the sweetest, nicest
Mm-hmm.
person in the world, you go to your job in the office, oh, she's so sweet. He's so sweet. He's just so kind. And to come home to your wife or your husband and they tell you you're not kind.
Right. Right.
Can you still hear them? And can you still hear them? And does the majority rule over the man?
Well, I was just about to speak to that because it's like these people don't live with you. They
You would
don't.
be you would be surprised, Olivia. You would be totally. It's amazing to you that you say that, but you would be surprised how many relationships are held hostage by,
Hmm,
how do I put it? I used to say this all the time. I still say it. Not equal gifts, not equal contribution, but equal gifts. In a relationship, I can't bring the same thing that my wife brings.
right.
I don't have the possibility. I clean the house, I can wash the dish, I can do all that other stuff. But then there are nurturing things that are intangible that I cannot bring
Hmm.
as a man.
Hmm.
Nor can she bring what I bring as a man, as a woman. I don't know where I was going with this. Go ahead.
Well, essentially, because I was saying, well, if you are in an intimate relationship with someone, such as a marriage, and
Right.
this is the most intimate relationship that
Mhm.
we as humans can experience, and this person is telling you, I experience you as me. This is a person you go to bed with that night. This is the person you have share the most intimacy with. I don't care if not one other person tells you that they experience you as mean. This is the other part of your whole. This is the person that you are one with. So there has to be some measure of truth to what you're
Accountable.
experiencing. I find that baffling, right? Like I don't. I'm
But
sorry.
it, but it's the realistic situation of many relationships. As much as you would find it baffling, it is the case. And it can be the case on the male side, it can be the case on the woman's side, is that you can be with a person for years and years and make the greatest observation and the greatest correction I've ever received in my whole life has came from my wife
Yeah.
when she just spoke from her emotions.
Yeah.
Now, when I was younger,
Mm.
I responded to the emotions. Who the hell are you talking to? How you gonna come at me? Because now I'm not a man. I'm trying to feel for men.
And you
I'm
have
feeling
results past and you hmm
I'm
hmm
feeling for my manhood. I'm young in marriage and not I'm feeling for my manhood because I don't know that my manhood is not wrapped up in how she says things. My manhood is in wrapped up in what she says and does it is it relevant? So as I have matured and grown, uh, it doesn't matter how correction comes. Just don't let me run off the cliff.
yeah, yeah.
Most of us want nice stop signs.
We want what, Papa?
Nice stop signs.
Oh, right.
Please stop.
Nice
Shh.
sirens.
Yes, yes, yes. Please stop.
Wee, wee, wee.
Yellow, green, yeah. We don't go, whoa,
Right.
whoa. And to me, when you share something about me and you're my spouse that I can't see, I should be grateful. Not in denial. I said, really? Is that what you see? Baby, I gotta fix that. So I apologize for doing it because if I'm doing it to you, I'm doing it to other people.
Well, yeah. Not in
Yeah.
denial and not in protection. Because if you feel like you have to protect yourself from the person you're in relationship with, you're not really in relationship with them.
Okay, well, why
And
would
it's
an
the healing
individual
that
be? Why would an individual be in a relationship and feel like they have to protect? Can you answer? That's a question for you. That's not a question. That's not rhetorical. Why would an individual be in a relationship and feel like he or she has to be in protective mode? Why?
maybe for the overall concept of protection or for the look or for the comfort of having someone else. I mean, I don't really know, Papa, because if I don't feel safe with you, if I don't feel safe with you physically, if I don't feel safe with you emotionally, I don't want to be with you. So I don't know why a person would be in relationship or want to be in relationship with someone but constantly feel like they need to protect themselves from the person that they're in relationship with. I
But
don't
that's
I really don't know.
no. When you are in that mode, why would someone do this? Let's go back. They have an experience.
Why would it? Okay, so you're not saying me, you're saying a
You, I'm
person.
saying a person. I'm not saying necessarily you.
Oh yeah,
They
they're
have,
hurt. They're
there's a
hurt.
rejection.
Yeah.
There's a rejection. Here's the thing about it. We have to go beyond what I call relational rejection. That when you become old enough to be in a relationship with other people, and we have to trace our rejection back to where it really happened at home. That's where that's where you understood what is acceptable for a man and what you should receive as a woman. You learned that from your home.
Yes, I did.
You learn the structure and the mannerism of a man
Yes, I did. From my
learning
pop.
at home.
Yes.
If you got a bad home,
I was gonna say, so did everybody else, right?
so when you get in an argument, you're arguing from a structural standpoint.
Hmm.
You're arguing from a standpoint of, okay, can my, how do I put it? Can my tradition, because that's what it is,
Yeah.
can my tradition handle correction? Can this man disrupt what I have seen all my life and what I have calculated to be the best way to defend myself against hurt as I mature? Because I'm powerless to determine what my examples are when I'm young. So whatever example I have when I'm younger and growing up, they're examples forced upon me, and the influence of it is forced upon me. So whether I become what they are or whether I don't become what they are, they still speak to my situation wherever I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I think
uh,
of
good.
what I witnessed in my home though. And most things, yeah, I do want duplicated in my relationships, but not necessarily every single thing. But for me, it's does it align itself with whatever okay, the way I heard you and mommy have disagreements.
Mhm.
For one, y'all didn't have a whole bunch of disagreements, but when you did, you typically would close the door and your voices might have gotten a little elevated, but I
Yeah.
never heard cussing, I never heard screaming, I never heard nobody getting touched or nothing like that, right? And I always felt like, okay, whatever it was, it got settled, and evidently there was like a meeting of the minds. That makes sense for me as a grown adult now to
Mhm.
want to endeavor to also have disagreements like that. Like I'm not interested in a shouting match. I'm not interested in having hands laid on me. I'm not interested in being in an argument just for the sake of being in an argument so that we can verbally spar or someone can feel like that's foolish to me. Like that's a waste of time. I'm saying all that to say I don't the traditions that I've held on to are not just because that's what I know. I've held on to those traditions because they make sense in terms of what I want the outcome to be.
I understand. I understand. But that's a good example.
Right.
I appreciate the fact that we have you and the girls, you and my kid, you guys can extract from the relationship or the paradigm or the model that mom and I set for you guys, and you can extract the good things from it, as well as, I know nobody's perfect and we all had our failures. I definitely had my own
Yes,
failures.
everybody's purple.
Uh, uh, my the point that I'm speaking to is you always argue from the standpoint of your paradigm until you come to the age and say, okay, dad didn't handle that
But that's what I'm speaking to also, Papa.
right.
It, if you are still carrying on a tradition that does not align itself with the outcome you want, that's asinine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If it doesn't eventualize in in the outcome that you want, why would you perpetuate it?
But how do I put this? Influence, impression, soul ties, if I could use that word,
Okay.
it's powerful.
And a lack
I,
of emotional intelligence.
it's
Mhm.
really, really difficult to extract yourself
Mhm.
from examples that you consider to be powerful. whether it's on the disappointment side or whether
Right.
it's on the success side. It's difficult for me to erase uh, individuals in my life that have impacted my life in a positive way,
Mhm.
and definitely difficult to navigate the individuals that have hurt me in my life. You understand what? So you have both of those dynamics, and you get both of those from a family environment. And we're going back to dating, because I think if you date now, you won't do it any great service if you don't relegate what you've gotten from the past relationships and the brokenness from the past relationships and all of. My question is, how much baggage do you bring so I know how strong my back needs to be? Because I know we don't come
We
to the
all have
relationship
it. Yeah.
baggage. We got to stop there. Oh, he perfect. Ain't nobody perfect. And nobody comes fully equipped to be all you want them to be. Good. All right. You going to close us out, or you want me to close us out today?
Well, listen, we love y'all. Thank you so much for being a part. This might just be the finale of our first season, Papa,
There
because
you go.
this episode was a little longer. So I think this is going to be a two-parter.
Sound like a winner. It may be a three-part.
On the next episode of Daddy to Daughter,
I have to understand that his mom and I are going to stand in a position in his life that could be threatening to me if I don't know who I am. If I know my value,
Mhm.
then I need to know that my value has worth to you.
Oh,
Does that,
gotcha. Yes, that makes
you
sense.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I need to know that. And most of the time, it's easy to value a woman when she's giving you everything you want.